Welcome back to Capitol Review. I'm Mark Hall. While the Democratic Party is looking for answers, the leaders of the Republican Party are looking pretty happy after they won the White House, the Senate, and the House. Colin Reed is a Republican political strategist and founding member of South and Hill Strategies. Colin, welcome back to Capitol Review.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Well, last time we talked, so much has happened since then. We're going to get to President-elect Trump's key picks in a moment for his cabinet. But first, Colin, what resonated with voters, especially some who are not typically associated with the GOP?
Mark, that's a great question. And if we had time now in the week that's passed since the election to really dive into some of the exit polls and the data and what was in the mind of voters. And it goes back to that famous James Corville saying from 1992, it was the economy, stupid. But I think it was more than that. It was this idea that life had gotten harder. Things had gotten more complicated. It wasn't easy. And everything had felt like there was a sense that the country was just on the overall wrong track. And that's something that extends beyond political ideology. That's something that extends beyond political figures or what party you belong to. There was just a need for a change. And that was something that the President-elect Trump spoke to. And of course, it was going to be a challenge for Vice President Harris to address that, given that she was one half of the administration in charge. So really, more than anything else, it was this idea that people want opportunity. They want the idea that they can live a life and pass on a life that's better than the one they had to their kids. And right now, it just doesn't feel that way. And when you feel like you're stuck in reverse, you're open to any agent who's going to help get you going in the right direction.
Colin, talk about the President-elect's cabinet appointments at this point. Who stands out?
A couple things I've been struck by. Well, first, before I get to that, is the speed. If you look back to 8 years ago when the President-elect Trump was in a similar situation, they weren't rolling out at this fast and furious pace. And by virtue of having his cabinet picks out there the way that he's doing it, and with this slow, steady drumbeat of big names, it's keeping the attention focused on what's to come. It's sending projecting a very forward-looking vision, and this idea that we're ready to hit the ground rolling on day one and get a lot done, because it's very rare that one party has all three branches of government. So there's been a number of picks so far. I think one of the most impressive ones so far is Senator Rubio as Secretary of State, and that says a couple of things. It says, one, that President Trump is able to take people into the tent that used to be his fierce critics, and he's willing to listen to dissenting voices. And two, it should assuage concerns of some of Trump critics out there that America is going to have some sort of wayward foreign policy. Senator Rubio is someone, as a Cuban immigrant, who speaks very articulately and passionately about the dangers in the world, especially the threat from communism. So that's one that really should make people feel pretty good.
Colin, what do you think the new administration's priorities should be in the first 100 days? And the second part of that question, do you think President Trump, now entering his second term, will help him navigate through the experience a little bit better?
Well, you always get better at things the second time you do it, Mark. And being president is the hardest job in the world, so having that experience is going to be invaluable to him. I think there's this belief that there was a lot of time wasted, a lot of capital squandered in the first term. There were accomplishments, to be sure, but there was probably more ground that could have been covered in that first 2 years of the Trump White House with Republican controls of Senate and the House. So look, I think the president's going to stick to his core promises. The one thing where I think there's widespread unanimity, not just among the Republican Party, but frankly some of the Democratic Party, is this idea that these tax cuts that expire at the end of 2025 need to be extended. These are tax cuts that benefit everybody. These are tax cuts that especially help small businesses, sole proprietors. There's a lot of things in there that the small business community is watching, waiting, hoping that D.C. doesn't lurch toward this cliff and have to get averted at the last minute, because you've seen a lot of encouraging signs in the economy since the election. Stock market's been up, interest rates are coming down, inflation's starting to cool, but those tax cuts, if we can just get those extended early on, hopefully with bipartisan support, that would be something that would just unleash and allow this economy to really roar.
Colin Reed, thank you so very much for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Mark.